Martin was a 16th century French peasant who one day left his home village and family behind. Almost a decade later, he miraculously returned, or so the accounts claim. For the next 3 years, his family, including the wife with whom he fathered 2 children in that time, and the villagers, all thought he was a Guerre himself. However, at one point, he got into an argument with his paternal uncle concerning money, because of what else, and was swiftly accused of not being actual Martin Guerre, but an imposter named Arnaud Dutil. Taken to court for the perceived crime, he provided an extensive recollection of the life before his disappearance, including intimate details of the relationship with his wife, which she corroborated as the two were questioned independently and their stories matched. In fact, she was there to testify on his behalf. Although she finally admitted she believed he was her husband at the beginning and then realized he wasn't. Regardless of his perfect recollection, he was found guilty of impersonation and sentenced to death, which he appealed. Then, to everyone's surprise, a man claiming to be the real Martin Guerre appeared. Interestingly, though, he could not recall his life, as well as the supposed imposter. But when stood next to him, the family instantly claimed he was, in fact, the real Guerre. At that point, the imposter admitted he duped everyone after learning of Guerre from 2 men who thought he was him. Supposedly, 2 collaborators later fed him details of Guerre's life to help him set up the impersonation. The imposter was executed, and now truly returned, Martin Guerre resumed his life in the village. This is interesting, because I don't understand how the family didn't know at first until the argument. Okay, the story, while definitely fascinating, seems closed. Right? Well, not exactly. Many questions remain unanswered to this day. Who actually gave the imposter all those specific details about Guerre's life? That would be my question too, because the imposter should have been able to know everything, right? And then they're saying the real one barely knew anything. And what was this again? Do I have a timeline? It says 16th century. And then my thing, he got executed. So I really hope it was the real one. How did this person know so much about intimate family dealings? Unless Martin wanted to live a different life and just fed this guy information. But this is 16th century. It's not like he could call him up as easily as he could nowadays. Another question was, or was it all a lie the imposter made up? If so, where did he learn all he used to impersonate? And this person actually asked a lot of questions. Because why did the entire family go along with the impersonation? Some experts claim they did, despite knowing he wasn't the real Guerre from the beginning due to impropriety. Guerre's wife needed a man to take care of her and her family affairs. Some others claim, however, that the family, the wife especially, was genuinely duped after not seeing her husband in nearly a decade. Is it genuinely possible, though, to forget how your husband and father of your children actually looks and behaves? After 10 years? Possibly. Especially if you don't have any pictures. I'm not sure how the picture quality and things were at that time. It's possible, because some of the people you were closest with, and if they either passed or you just don't talk or speak with them at all anymore because certain situation, I could see, especially if their body has changed at all, I could see how I could forget how they look. Why did the real Guerre suddenly return, and exactly at the time the trial about someone impersonating him was happening? That I cannot answer. And then they said the family recognized him instantly. So, I don't know. Why was everyone just fine with an honestly absurd situation of having lived with an imposter for years, having his children, and then just swapping to the real husband and continuing to live together till death? This is just a weird case, to be honest with you. And then it says, did Martin Guerre even exist? With as many unknowns as there are concerning the case, there have been voices suggesting that the case is actually nothing more than a made-up story. Well, that's good to find out at the end. Jeez, I didn't realize I was reading them. The comment is actually pretty funny. Someone says, no offense to the original Martin, but maybe the new Martin was an upgrade, so everyone kept their lips sealed. Based on the commercials for Richard Guerre, Jodie Foster's movie Summersby, that may be the case. It's an adaptation of the Guerre story. And I remember the exchange, why do you say I'm not the real Summersby? Because I never loved him like I love you. That would be interesting. I never watched that movie. Maybe I should. Oh, man. Yo. This is actually insane. It says, I recall reading he was extremely nice and courteous towards his wife, although I have no idea if the original Martin was the same, better, or worse. And then right under that, someone puts, from what I remember, the real Guerre was kind of an a-hole, and the imposter was very well liked. So the imposter only got found out because there was a dispute over money. So if that never happens, it sounds like the imposter would have been good to go. It says Guerre's wife was in a difficult position when he disappeared because they were still legally married. She couldn't remarry because he wasn't dead. I imagine she was thrilled to have a new husband that she actually liked, and probably gave him a lot of the information that the imposter remembered. That is interesting. If she did like him, she probably was like, hey, you remember this? Yeah, I kind of do, but tell me that again. That is interesting. Didn't think about that. Especially, I don't understand why she couldn't remarry though. That's especially if you can't find somebody for 10 years. Really? So he could possibly, let's just say, the original Martin started a life with a family. Could have had kids out there or whatever. But she can't remarry? No, that kind of sounds messed up. But this is the 16th century we're talking about. It said it's possible he made up the two other men in order to protect her. Unfortunately, it seems to me that the disagreement about money was the impetus for the family to drop the charade and out him. It certainly is convenient that the real Guerre showed up at exactly the right time. Maybe some of the family was still in contact with him, even if he wanted nothing to do with his wife and kids. That might be the best. That might be the best one. I read about the Guerre case. Says, I can see that angle, but Guerre left due to a family dispute concerning money and then was apparently drafted for a war. Okay. When discharged, he spent years in a monastery. I'm not sure if being a soldier and later being holed up in a monastery allows for a swift exchange of letters with someone from the family, especially considering he left because of familial issues. I do absolutely believe, though, that the new wife fed new Guerre information because she liked him more than her actual husband. Yeah, I can see that. And then somebody under that executed kind of seems kind of harsh. I think so, too. Let's say for impersonating somebody, but obviously couldn't have been that bad if he was around for 10 years. My thing is one family dispute and off of my head. That's where I'd be upset. Really? After all I've done? I faked this relationship so well that y'all couldn't know? Or maybe y'all did know and y'all just want to keep up appearances. Somebody says, okay, who would know all that about his past, able to provide that to the imposter? What could a woman of that period do without a husband, abandoned and without means to inherit land? Who could gaslight and convince their fellow villagers that the imposter was the genuine article, not just with their words, but with their actions, acting like they never left? The wife. Yeah, now that enough people are saying it, it probably is the wife that fed all this information. But I wonder why the dispute was so bad over money that they had him killed, and then they obviously were in contact with the other husband for him to show up just like perfect timing. So yeah, that's why I like reading the comments. It gives you more perspective. And somebody else does put, I wonder if the real and the fake husband were both in prison somewhere or in the military, and they shared with each other details of their lives. But still, it's not enough details or like how I walk, how I move, my wife. Like I can give you stuff about like my family, names and stuff like that, but stuff that we do on a daily basis, maybe how you act around the kids, I don't know, certain intimate moments. Yeah, like usually guys aren't going that into detail, but if it's just you and your wife, yeah, you might go a little deeper into that. Yeah, listen. And then somebody says, okay, this is the last string of comments to read. What would be the point of impersonating a peasant? A lord or something, I understand, but I'm wondering what his game was here. And then under this, I agree. There seems very little to be gained by impersonating a peasant unless you were trying to hide your real identity and stay below the radar. But given the time period, I expect it to be pretty simple, just to just rock up to a new town with a fake name, and no one would be any wiser, as it wouldn't be easily verifiable. That is true about the times. I feel like if you think about it, especially at that time period, if you're a town over, unless you're a frequent traveler, nobody would know who you are. It's not like word would be getting out, especially if you move like 3 towns over. Word's not getting out that fast. The mail probably takes days, if not months, to get to you, depending on how far away it is. So they'll tell him. And then somebody under this puts, actually, Martin Guerre wasn't exactly poor. In the 16th century France, there was a rapid increase in wealth inequality among peasant classes. And while poverty got worse, some peasants were actually quite wealthy. His own family had property, and at the age of 14, Guerre married an 11-year-old girl from a peasant family with even more property. Okay, again, that's 14 and 11, but that's a different time period. And it says the sources indicate that the family actually had money and land that the new Guerre inherited after his father's death. Okay, and maybe that's why the wife wanted him in, because he actually had some stuff. And maybe that's where the dispute came over money, because the uncle was like, all right, now how did you get all this? And especially if you Martin, and or you need to share, or we're gonna out you. But what gets him killed unless he's somebody higher up, or he's somebody like how I mentioned, like crimes don't get reported if you go to a new town, or maybe the king or the lord of that land realized who he was, because his real name was Anil Detu or something like that. Let's see, what did it say up here? Arnaud Detu. Yeah, I wonder if I can look him up real quick, because yeah, it just pops up under Martin. Yeah, so I would that would be interesting, especially in that time period, to be able to do something like this.